Good Monday slash Tuesday to you one and all. Hope you're doing well this start of your week, and hopefully it is productive. We're going to be, speaking of being productive, we're going to be trying to finish up this rig. The goal is to try and get this one finished by end of the stream. A good portion of it has been modeled, and I was kind of putting around a little bit too much, so we're going to just try and get as close to final as we can, because we need to put this into the animation. Anyway, gonna proceed. Wrong button. I first heard this music when I was in college, and became a big fan of it. I didn't even know who it was that originally made the music. And I finally found the artist years later, but he wasn't really selling his music in the way that I was expecting. So I saw that he was selling it, and so I bought the entire album. This is right now a remix of some of his more popular pieces. But it is all stream legal. So, at least based upon what he said on his on the album information. So, and if not, well, then we'll figure that out. Either way, it was a piece of music that I've been meaning to buy for a very, very long time. So, would have been buying it anyway. Cost-wise, it was also incredibly, affordable in terms of that it was like $60 for 400 pieces of music. I've never seen something so outlandishly lopsided in that sense in terms of, what you get for your money. Very impressive. Blocking of the hand is something I've been so far pretty happy with. Typically, this stuff, when I'm doing an experiment like this, sometimes it will begin good and then it'll get troublesome later on. And so far, it's been pretty reliable. Hey, greetings there, Jess. How you doing? Still hacking up a lung every now and again. It was a not the most productive fishing trip I've ever been on, but still got something. And then the fish decide that after we left that was the time they were going to show up, and so apparently they've had a lot of fish now since then. C'est la vie. Gonna do the Knuckles here. I've always struggled with Knuckles on the character. It's not really spherical, it's more like cubes. About the right scale for the top. There's a ridge, kind of like a half circle technically. So somewhat half circle there. Then bevel that. Then move this on up. And move this out like that. It's a little bit closer than the blocking. Now just time to smooth this out. That's not bad. I say not bad. Of course, it's not great, but it's tolerable. Now we want to go down towards Zafinga. Let's get the profile correct. That's underneath. That's up top. So that's going to go back even further. Gully. That's closer. Then it kind of just dissipates when it comes to the end here. So let's add this. What we want to do now is move this on out. Be a little bit of a divot at the top here. But not on the whole. It's actually just at the very top. So we'll grab these two and move those down. And that's the divot that happens with your knuckle or can. And it's towards the back and then it smooths off at the front. There's a really good animation out there where somebody did one of the highest quality hand rigs that has ever been done. They did it with Blender. I wish I had that level of skill, because that person did something so utterly fantastic. Well, there's no body for the hands, but it was an interesting study, and he did a Very, very good job. I wish I knew how he did it. All right, so now let's rotate this. Interesting. Kind of interesting that your knuckles are pretty uniform in terms of their size, it would seem. There's a little bit of size variation, but not a lot. But it does seem like this one might be a little bit flatter. Or maybe it's just my hand. Comes from punching too many trees. I know, bad joke. Okay, so now comes merging these things together. Why punching trees? Do you play Minecraft in real life? Well, not so, FBI. I take advice from my old kung fu master who said, punch tree. And somehow it's supposed to, help out with your training or something like that. Instead, it just bruises your knuckles. I did hear an interesting thing that apparently if you punch something that is stationary, it does help your body to get stronger in terms of absorbing shock. Of course, you can overdo it and you end up breaking yourself. It also helps to toughen up your bones because it makes them stronger. Again, you can go too far and then it becomes worse. I think in theory, it's a good idea for training, but you never, ever, ever want to take those sorts of guidances to the extreme because a lot of people do. Anyway, how you doing, FBI? And I mean, not so FBI, but it's easier to just abbreviate it like that. What are you up to? All right, thanks. Just call me FBI. Yeah, we need. I don't have a better sound for this. Need like that sound effect of FBI open up, but instead all I got is this. My Discord in-game username is FBI, so yeah. You know what would be really funny is if not so FBI turns out to actually be FBI. That would really get us. Pretty much everything that's helpful is in moderation. Exactly. FBI female body investigator. This is when someone says FBI. Oh my. That's indeed something like that. I was starting to mention earlier at the start of the stream that this music is from an artist that influenced a lot of my early creative life. In college was when I first heard this album, or at least part of this album, and The artist's name is Adrian von Ziegler. I think that's how you say that. But anyway, always enjoyed the music. It's not the best thing for every kind of scenario. You kind of want to choose your music based upon what you're doing. But it's a nostalgic thing for me. I do kind of miss those old days of being creative and not really having a true goal that was figured out at the point. And you were able to dream and come up with ideas and not have to worry about, fulfilling it within a certain amount of time. Because in the end, there was still time. And then you get older and you start to feel the pressure. You got to do more, you got to go faster. Should I eat my tub of yogurt in moderation, says Bastion. Hello, sir. Eating your tub of yogurt. I would suggest that in moderation is probably a good thing. You don't want to end up getting yourself in serious trouble and, having some sort of stomach ache. Of course, you would have other people that will look at you and say, "What are you doing?" Exactly. But, you definitely don't want to eat that in one go. Do it in 2 days, not 1 day. Anyway, how are you doing, Bastion, and what have you been up to? All right, let's merge these things together. Let's start off by doing this palm. Understood. All right, he's going to go for 2 days. That tub of yogurt is going to be gone. Oh, you might want to be a little bit careful, though. Make sure that it stays at, refrigerator temperature. You don't want to be set out in, that southwestern heat for too terribly long. It could cause some, bacteria to grow. So might want to refrigerate it between helpings. How am I supposed to do this part? Nope, this isn't how I'm supposed to do it. I forgot the old techniques. Okay, we have to do it in its stages here. So basically we're going to stitch it together by creating these islands and then proceed from there. Let's snap to the faces. Better turn it on wireframe. Yeah, it's not going to be very easy to see for a little bit here. I'll do this. It'll be the closest I can get. Actually, wait a minute. Maybe I can do it. Oh, wait a minute. I think I can do this the other way here. So I come over to workbench, and then I can turn on outline. Nope. It's what is the setting? It's I keep forgetting this. I thought it was outline. Wireframe. Oh, wireframe is there. I gotta find this out. Blender workbench wireframe. Okay, creating renders with that. Do I have to put on a modifier? Enable wireframe overlay. Okay. Let's just go through this little process here.
In this video, I will show you how to...
Yeah, mute that little guy. Where is he with this process? Line arts. Okay. Okay, yeah. It is that. So we're not going to be able to do it that way. Well, that's fine. I didn't want to do it that way anyway. Something like that. Okay, so now do is follow the path that these muscles would take, and now I can start to stitch this together. Split that, and we can turn on to this at this point. Yeah, that's gonna work. I remember when 3D was still relatively new for the home user. There was a lot of programs that said if you did not select the vertices in the right order, it would glitch and it would cause your mesh to kind of invert in weird ways. And selecting vertices in the right order was always a big concern. Did you select it in the right order? Because you couldn't undo it. In this, now we have enough memory on our PCs where I can be able to select like this and say, oh, I overselected. I just press undo and it undoes that selection. That is still baffling to me because I spent so many years afraid of misclicking. It was very, very frustrating. And then I found out that they got rid of that. So like right now, I should be able to select all these in a weird order, and it makes the face. No problem. That's still amazing to me. Hey, greetings there, Tashar. How are you doing today? Your name still continues to cause me to have a little bit of a tongue tie there. Although I have, tied tongues all the time. Wonderful. Now, continue expanding. Let's go to this little area right there. And now come out on the far side. I am eyeballing this a little bit, so if you're watching a real pro, they would tell you to probably do something mathematical to be able to keep everything in alignment. I'm not doing that. I'm good, you said it correctly, Tashar. Oh, good. So I make enough mistakes on people's usernames. Like I said, I'm always second guessing myself as a result of it. Math are for squares and circles. Yeah, we need that math. Correction, we don't need that math. I was actually pretty decent with math when I was in school. And I remember getting very frustrated with some of the courses because I would find mistakes in the curriculum. That was the sort of mathematician that I was, or at least could have been. A lot of that started to fade off, and I took on more of an artistic role in terms of math. But I remember that college class because we learned no math. It was the most ridiculous thing. We did like a little bit of math to get started, and then we threw it all away in terms of just so we could study literature about theoretical math. And I was like, I took a high-level math course because I wanted to learn and like be challenged because normal algebra was boring to me. And here I was studying about all this nonsense about dimensions and whatnot, and I realized I really dislike that sort of stuff because theoretical stuff gets, how should we say, too enamored with the theoretical, and so thus it stops becoming math and becomes more fiction. And I wanted something that was concrete, because concrete takes math. Hey, greetings there, West. How you doing? By the way, folks, Dadman and I have figured out the next day for the storytelling stream, and we're going to be going over how to fix Disney Star Wars. We've gone over the reasons why storytelling has been dead. We've gone over the ways that you tell a good story. We went over the areas that Disney failed, and next we're going to be going over how Disney could save the story. Either could have or still save it. So that should be interesting. When we get closer to that date, then I'll mention it. But right now, it looks like we're probably going to be on a Tuesday. Probably on the I believe it was the 11th that we're looking at, something like that. But anyway, I always have fun with those streams. It's one of the highlights of being online, getting a chance to talk about that stuff. Doing okay, just popped in to say hey before heading to bed. Rest well, and I hope you have dreams of pulling off the most unbelievable counter snipe on the opponents in Fortnite. Something like that. Rest well, sir. By the way, folks, when I was really competitive in my early on with games and whatnot, I got so competitive with some games that I started having like nightmares starting to happen of scenarios, and many times where I would like relive experiences and wake up and realize, that's what I could have done better. That's the level of competitiveness that I used to have. And I had to get rid of that competitive nature because I got way too competitive to the point of where it caused me to not be civil. Yeah, it's a scary stuff. Silver Jeff, the evil Jeff. Yes, the most terrifying version. Very, very scary. I haven't done this modeling technique in a while. It really is one of my more, it's one of my favorite ways of modeling a character. The reason why is because it's kind of like connect the dots. It's a puzzle. You're trying to figure out how best to transform a hand, for example, into a perfect set of quads. And right here, we have a bit of a problem. I want this to be how things connect, but it doesn't really connect very well for what I have going right here. So then you can try and figure out other ways to try and make the same thing happen. And maybe find out a better solution in the process. This goes back to that math stuff that I really enjoyed when I was in education. By the way, when I was fishing, I ended up being robbed of a great catch for the year. The reason why? The fish decided that they wanted to arrive 2 days after we stopped. So in other words, the fish decided that, hey, the people are gone. Now's our chance to make that run and get through and, not have to worry about any sort of nonsense of getting caught or whatnot. All I had to say after that was, anyway. Wouldn't have been so frustrating if he didn't have to use leave in order to do that, but alas, that's what happens. By the way, I was rendering a 24 frames per second in Blender, but it's always jittery video, and some said to do it in 30 frames per second, then scale it by 1.25. It was just frustrating. I know what you're talking about. What you're dealing with is one of the problems of the 3D world. What you are lacking is, first off, you're probably having a problem of conversion. 24 frames per second should be your final output. And if it's 30 frames per second, then the 24 starts to look weird. So that's understandable. Now, if you have 24 and it's still jittery, part of the problem is that you don't have motion blur. That baffled me for a long time. Why does it look like that? It's because it's lacking motion blur. And when you add that in, it unfortunately takes you more time than if you just rendered out, more frames. Motion blur has gotten easier, but it's still frustrating. And it doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's going to save you render time. But either way, the main problem is that you need something more to your scene to really make it work in terms of how it's being rendered. You need to either increase the quality by adding in motion blur or stronger motion blur, or you have to render at a higher frame rate. I'm torn on the two. I really like a good motion blur. In 3D, that's a lot harder to do. Anyway, sorry that you're having to deal with that. I've been there before, and it does get very frustrating. When I was first getting started, I was working with two software. One was TrueSpace. It was a very, very old program. Not very good. But it was my very first 3D animation software to try. And it was just a trial. It had some really good features, but it had a lot of really, 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 really bad features. For the most part, it was a bad software. But it was a good starting software. From there, I graduated to Lightwave. I got a student edition of Lightwave, and I dove in as far as I could into that 3D software, trying to master it, trying to get better at it, and it was not easy. Lightwave had a ton of features that I really, really enjoy. To the point of where I wish Blender would actually catch up and say, hey, Lightwave had something going here. Let's learn from them. I still hold out that I want Lightwave to make a comeback. I really do. Lightwave is one of those software that its uniqueness in terms of how they structured the software makes a lot of sense for productions. And I can definitely see them making a comeback one day if they only they were to be a little bit more strategic with their development. And unfortunately, the cost isn't helping them. It is cheaper than some other software, but compared to Blender, nope. Blender has beat them in terms of price. Can't beat free. But there are some other things you could do. You could lean into the making it a free software and just making sure that some of the higher quality elements are paid for. Because Blender's kind of that way too. Just lean into it. Believe me, if Lightwave were to make a comeback, I would actually seriously consider doing some projects in it. And it's actually a good software to understand some of the basics. It's a little bit easier to learn than Blender, but it's a little bit harder to master. And I could not quite master it. I encountered a lot of problems, and I do think that if they were to make a comeback, they would have to resolve a lot of those issues. If I had money, like a lot of money, I would actually buy Lightwave and try and turn it into the software that it was meant to be. The reason why is not because I hate Blender or anything. It's because I believe that when there's a loss of competition, that the products become worse. And right now, Blender's on track to replace Maya. I do think that. It keeps getting better, and Lightwave isn't. Maya isn't, not in the way that it used to be. Hey there, North Carolina native. I've never really played highly fictional types of games, but I once drank the last soda in the fridge. It was the Final Fanta. You know what? That joke is just a gas. Anyway, how you doing, North Carolina native? What have you got going on? Well, I was watching this video where the wagon wheels that happened, and it was on a runway. It was on a railway track. For the effect, I have to turn off motion blur. I think I'm not doing camera and object movement at the right speed. Well, one of the things that I have done in the past, Tashar, is that I do look at people's files every now and again if they kind of get stumped, and feel free to link it to me if you have any sort of problems with it, or like you just can't quite figure out what's going on. It doesn't mean that I'll be able to figure it out, but I can help troubleshoot things with you if you so decide upon that. Everybody buys Burt's Bees, but they forget to pave the way. Forget who paved the way. Alvin's Anteaters. Ugh. Alvin's Anteaters. Ugh. Just makes you crawl thinking about it. Let's hide that, and these. The hand's not terrible, but definitely needs some refinement. I wrote a how-to nature book that they refused to publish. It was titled Mind Kampfsite. Yeah, you know, I think I could probably see what the problem was. I'm just a shot in the dark there, but you might want to change the title. I hear Laura Croft is a lot cheesier than Laura Croft. Laura Croft. Well, you know, that Laura Croft character, some people might, you know, find that they get an intolerance to it or something. But yeah, it's pretty cheesy indeed. You know, that's a game series that I never really got any interest in playing. It was Tomb Raider. I know it's like one of the classics of the old gaming world, but I never once had a desire to want to play it, which Um, there's a lot of games though in the past that were like interesting to me, but that one wasn't on there. That does remind me of a lot of the games that I did remember from back then. One of the most intriguing ones that I've never been able to hunt down the actual like version of this was a mech game. So it's one of those big machines, the mech battle games. It was actually really well done, and it was way early on, and I've never been able to find it again. It was one that I played just once, but I remember the graphics very vividly, and nothing has been that. But that was a game that I wanted to play when I was a kid, and didn't have that ability because we didn't have a PC that could play it. I did find many iterations of some of those old mech games, but never that particular game. And I am still baffled as to about how different it is from everything else that was out there. A bed with a drawer lets you put some junk in your bunk. Well, that's not quite, a rim shot worthy there. Mecha Leka High. Mecha Leka. Mecha Heine. Oh, that's, I'm sure maybe it would be better if someone were to say it correctly and not bumble it like I did, but that was one of the weaker ones there. I hear after the divorce, the Himalayas became the Himalayas. Well, I guess that she won the peaks in the lawsuit. The Himalayas went to the Himalayas. Do you have a Discord? Yes, I do. It is a quiet Discord for the most part. You can find that over here. It's I don't remember if the link is still broken. It always breaks whenever I am in between streams, it seems. So let me get this thing. Invite to server, copy, and we can paste it over here. That is where you can find it. And it is, like I said, a quiet server. It used to be quite hopping at one point, but people's lives got busy, and I'm not one to, try and I'm not one to try and force interaction. I would prefer that people, leave the server and become engaged in their local community. But while you're here, I want you to, feel free to be able to explore and have conversations and whatnot. So anyway, laid back server, and you can share like artwork and whatnot you've done. Yeah, let's make you that, and you should be good to go at that point. If you have any problems, just mention it, because I have had problems with the roles, so I'm not very good at when it comes to Discord. I had someone that was going to help me out with a Discord early on, and then he decided to try and betray me. I was like, what the heck? This is about the most laid-back community you could have found, and you wanted to try and destroy it? The guy was a dork. North Carolina native says, I came to the New World on Her Majesty's flagship, the HMS PMS. She's a feisty one. I'm sure it probably makes more sense to those that understand it, but I don't get that one. But anyway, so one of the things that I did notice though when we were getting kind of started with the Discord was that there's a couple of people that were trying to hype it up, and understandably so. And I found over time that those that hype a channel, hype a Discord, many times they're gone after just a very, very short amount of time. And lo and behold, a lot of our biggest hype people that caused some of the biggest changes actually for the channel were never around for very long. And so there's still like remnants of the things that people have done or requested for almost everyone that's come through. I do a lot of things that people request, even when it's kind of maybe not the smartest thing to try and do. Like, just because like, hey, people have an interest in it. They have a request for it. And I take it seriously. May not be able to get to it immediately, but I do take it seriously. And then I try and follow it through to its conclusion. One of those things was the Blender Challenge. It was a series of challenges that we were going to do on stream with a bunch of folks, and the interest disappeared almost as fast as it started. That was an unfortunate thing. Just a second. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, yep, I just had too much electricity going into that microphone, it looked like. I think everything is operational again. I think Jackson Potluck was actually Italian, because all his paintings look like spaghetti. Ugh. By the way, never, ever, 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 ever buy pasta in Italy if you cannot see them making the pasta. As I learned when I was at a restaurant, and I walked back to the restroom in order to wash my hands, and I look over to the side and I see into the kitchen, and the people preparing the food were surrounded by walls stacked full of Chef Boyardee. I came back to my family and mentioned to my parents, hey, you know what? You just ordered spaghetti. They're putting in Chef Boyardee cans, and they're going to make your meal with that. They said I was crazy, and then they went back to wash their hands too, just to see, and they came back and like, oh my. But I'll never forget that big red wall of Chef Boyardee cans. That was Venice, by the way. Never, ever, ever, ever go to Venice. Venice is for scammers. And my apologies to anybody who lives in Venice. That place is, I hate to say it, that place is just sinking in popularity. All right, I've pressed that button way too many times tonight. You can tell it's kind of a slow evening in terms of content because I'm pressing that button a lot. Who is Boyardee? Yeah, Boyardee. Yep. Just imagine an entire wall of that in an Italian restaurant. Oh my goodness. Italians. Italians are keeping that guy in business. I once chartered an all-black yacht to explore the dark ends of the world. I'm writing a book about the experience called Finding Nemo. Wow. Wow. Yeah, the Italian hand there. One February, I put a cork in my in my belly button because I wanted to give up lint for a lint. Got to beware of that lint belly button. Yeah. Depending on the shirt that you're wearing, that may become a little bit easier than not. Golly. That's something I could never stand. When you get a sweater and then it causes the lint to like get stuck in there and it's like, yuck. Once we finish this part of the hand, then what we're going to do is we're going to stitch the fingers onto there and just use a patching system for that. And then we'll do the arm probably tomorrow. I saw a game rating about another stream that said partial nudities. So I thought, isn't that like half-assing it? Oh my. Can't even say that at full volume there. Wow. Wow. Yep. The moons. Beware of it. Let's try to sneak one in on you. Yep, yeah, indeed. I get it. See, I just have a very adverse way of, well, I have such an aversion to even saying some things like that. It's hard for me to say it even in jest, let alone in like anger or whatnot. So usually when I get upset, I will shout out something like, dang it, or ouch, blast. And someone looked at me once and said, you can actually curse, okay? No one's going to judge you for that. I'm like, don't you get it? I was raised to avoid it so much that it is ingrained in me. My parents made sure that I followed through with what scripture said. If you raise them, correctly, they won't veer from that later on. And that panned out in terms of me saying things like that. And so instead, I have to find more creative ways to get insulting. And so now my insulting sounds a little bit more like Lemony Snicket, saying things like cake sniffer and whatnot. Where can I learn the right way to render on frames per second and all those things? Well, the solution, well, the place that you used to go to is kind of gone. There used to be a really good channel on that stuff, and I have not seen them make anything in a long time, and it's all very outdated. I don't even think they're around anymore. What would that solution be? All right, good night. Gonna rest. Rest well, Bastion. See you next time, whenever that is. May you have sweet dreams of drowning in sugar. That would be very sweet. Don't worry, get a little bit of water out there and all the sugar will just consolidate into that drop. I need to head to bed too. I'll catch you next time, Jeff. Rest well, North Carolina native. Come up with more hilarious jokes, and we will see you next time, whenever that is. Rest well, sir. I still try to say sword name. Oh, yeah. Missed that one. I do have a belief that people deserve dignity. And I do find it interesting that a lot of folks, the moment you speak kindly to them, they will give you a level of attention and care that they would not normally afford anybody. And suddenly their whole disposition will change the moment you show them some respect and kindness. And I remember when I was with the YouTubers, hearing them mentioning each other in just pure hateful insults. And I was like, oh, it's all in fun. But then the cameras would turn off, and then they would carry on that behavior. Instead, the tempers would flare up. I remember seeing that and thinking, you can only hide that stuff for so long before somebody is going to figure it out. And I think that when you're genuine and kind with people, they remember that just as much as if you insulted them. But the difference is that, they come away with joy. They're going to treat you kinder. They're going to have a level of respect for you that they probably would not have had otherwise. I have seen that in action many a time. And sometimes our culture wants us to become as, you could say, as dirty as they are. And I'm not saying that somehow people are condemned necessarily for saying things that are off color. But it does eat away at somebody. It makes them feel awful, disheartened. And the moment you show them kindness, their whole disposition will change. Even if they bragged for a long time how they like they like the tough talk, they like the insults, makes them feel better, makes them feel like they're one of the gang. Well, that only lasts as long as the insults are artificial. The moment that it becomes real, their tune changes. And I've seen it when people realize that it's actually meant. Anyway, I say that because I actually saw this come into play recently. I was watching as somebody just realized that they that every insult that they had received up until that point actually was genuinely meant as an insult. No longer was it, this is just how we egg each other on, how we rib each other. Instead it became, they mean it. And the look of, shock that comes over their eyes. And it's something when, it happens to you, because many of us, we see that happen with people at one point or another in our life. But we never think about, that will probably happen to me. No, we don't think that. We forget that even happens. And then we're surprised when suddenly we are faced with that reality that people have ill intent, that they have hate in their hearts, that they really don't mean the best for you, that they mean to exploit. That sort of stuff hit me very hard early on. It's one of the reasons why I talk so openly about that sort of stuff on the regular. That's why I keep stressing about civility. Because we live in a world that loves to hurt. And I saw this in somebody's conversation. They were saying something that I believed in, something I very adamantly despise. And they were saying things like, yeah, absolutely, I despise that. And then they took it to the extreme, saying, because of that, horrible, horrible thing. Whoa now, we're not going there. I believe in showing mercy and, trying to find a way to remedy a lot of our problems, because we live in a fallen world. Just saw something funny on Twitter. That's the latest of the Discord beeps. Let's take a look at this. That's not the button. Well, that fish is going on a journey. Folks, this is what happened to Nemo when he was flushed into the tube. He got to see a wondrous world as he went all the way out to the ocean to find his father. Going by all the fish that wanted to try and eat him. Trying to find that one pipe that'll take him out to the ocean. What the heck? Golly, that fish is going everywhere. He's like, what a wonderful world. I can see everybody and not feel like I'm going to be eaten. What's really funny is that most of these fish would eat him in a moment. Oh, all that just to get put into the bucket. That's clever. That is quite clever. Fish. The fish roller coaster. Exactly. So you can definitely have opinions about how things should be, and you can be adamantly frustrated with things. But the moment you verbally try and tear someone down, it crosses a line so much. Still alive, says Tashar. Indeed. But yeah, it's I do think that we have spent so much time in our culture feeding our own anger that we forget to show mercy. And then when we want mercy, we start begging. I remember seeing a movie about this, actually. Somebody was, in the movie, was hurting. And the enemy started laughing at them and started poking at them. And then gutted them. That was one of the movies that college students showed me. And you know what? I never watched movies with them again. I have a very deep disgust with violent movies. It used to not be that way. I could tolerate things. It wasn't my favorite or anything, but something snapped in me when I realized that it could hurt someone that I cared about. And it's actually goes back to something I saw about the early church and how people were suffering in the Colosseum and the likes. How people laughed and had sport at their suffering. I could never see violence in entertainment the same way ever again. But then I noticed something. It wasn't just in the entertainment. It transcended that. It went into the outside world, into our daily life. The way they interacted with friends, the way they interacted with people they were frustrated with. And I could never see it the same way again. And when you've felt that level of hate levied against you, you start to think, I don't want to contribute to that sort of a cycle. It's very easy to find yourself embittered. And it takes a whole lot to show mercy when it's not deserved. I saw a video where somebody was taunting about how they would deal with somebody who hurt their family. And it was seen like, I'm showing like that I care by the way that I'm verbally threatening people and whatnot. And I heard something different. I heard something where I realized how very easy it is for us to make a misjudgment, to jump the gun, you could say. Let's say that there was a guy that wanted to always protect his family, and then he finds out that, someone that he cared about was hit by a drunk driver. And then that person says, you know what? That person who was the driver doesn't deserve a second chance. And, we all think that, something crosses a line and we can't overlook it anymore. That's until we're on that receiving end. And then suddenly we look at it and think, if only someone would have mercy on me. If only somebody would look at you and say, you know what? You don't deserve this. And consequences are still going to happen. But I'm not going to destroy you. I'm not going to squeeze out every last bit. There's going to be justice. But there's also going to be shown mercy. It's that fine line in between being vengeful and being passive. And that's the one that we're told that we need to try and walk. As Christians, we get raised with this understanding of that there is a point of where there is mercy. But it is understandably very hard to deal with that. And it does not come easy. Especially for some people. And when you come across somebody who cannot forgive, that becomes a scary person. And I dare say, you start to see some of the devil in them. I'm not saying that the devil's in charge of them, but I will say that sometimes we give the devil more of an ear than we should. And in our bitterness, that's what can happen. It's one of the struggles that our generation is going to have to deal with. There's a lot of very angry youth right now. Understandably so. And I don't necessarily think that the youth need to be to necessarily apologize for their anger right now. But it can go too far. You can be angry and not sin. But the moment you get angry and you do sin, people get severely hurt. By the way, if the top of this hand looks horribly messy, that is something we're going to clean up with the next step here. Right now, I'm just trying to get the right topology, and I am being a little sluggish with my method here because it's been a while since I've done this method. While you're talking about anger and fighting, and the background music sounds like something from a medieval war scene in a movie or show. Hi, that. Oi, lads, that be the music of me homeland, and that be where we would be jousting in the in the castle, right there in the Highlands. Jousting in Scotland, as if. Yes, indeed. That's what you get around here. High quality stories. Stories of real life. Stories of real people and morals and philosophy and theology, mixed in with some dramatic music in the background and pointless visuals on the screen. All that together. That's what you get around here. As Anime Knight said the other day, when he said Alaska Man Jeff is criminally underrated, that's what he meant. He meant that sort of description there. Not like actual criminal or whatnot. He meant that be, epic with pointless visuals in the background. almost done with this stage. Really do want to stress just that importance, though. Just a second. Because I have known people that just have that level of vengeance percolate all the time. And then suddenly, something causes it to boil over, and they hurt somebody they care about. It's happened far too many times. Gotta give myself some more water. There's a Maya Tut on hand model. They don't use that many verts. Oh yeah, take reference pictures for hand. It's too many verts, if not. Yeah. Indeed, too many verts. Exactly, and we're going to actually be minimizing it and making it more like this down here. I was trying to get the topology down. And I was getting kind of like this was an easy repetition. It's been a while since I've done a hand. So we're going to be reducing this by about maybe down to about 30% of the number of verts that are back here. But now we're going to do like the merging of them. We're just trying to get it so that it matched the shape that was underneath. But yes, that is a good point. I got to give myself some more water. I'm going to start coughing otherwise. Be right back. Your electronics wouldn't appreciate you having a mist humidifier, would they? Couldn't help with your throat. Some you can even add essential oils to help breathing or whatever. You know, that is actually a very smart thing. But there is one challenge to that. So, this is Alaska. And as you know, the humidity up here is naturally very dry. This is the most humid it is ever going to be this summer. 40%. 40% humidity. And it was just like raining yesterday or something like that. I think the highest it will actually get up to is like 60 when it is raining, but you know, normally it's just 40 or less. And so one of the things it actually does is actually helps out for me, because otherwise I would actually have maybe a lot more gunk in my throat because it all dries out. So it is actually a benefit. And it's not actually my electronics that are the things I'm worried about, it's the paper. The paper would get destroyed instantly if it was humid, and I have I have been in warm places before where humidity would destroy my artwork. And I got so frustrated with it. I was like, if only it wasn't so humid around here. But you know what I could use? An oil and water spray. Just squirt it in the mouth. And that way, you can, moisten the throat. Actually, having something for the throat as like a drink, like put honey in it or something to help out with long streams, that actually could be beneficial. Is Alaska expensive, and how are you surviving? That is a very good question. Well, let us tell you a little bit about Alaska, okay? Alaska is very expensive to live in. It is not the same as LA or New York. Cities down in the lower 48 are much, much more expensive to live. Alaska is expensive, but it doesn't have to be. In Alaska, you have the ability to live off the land if you so desire. Now, not everyone can do that, but a lot of people still can. I do not. I rent from a fairly reasonably priced apartment. I have a moderate job. It's not minimum wage. It's not middle class. It's somewhere in the middle. It's like the middle of the lower class. And with that, I try and scrape and save as much as possible, because our country is having financial challenges that make it very hard to save, and then inflation comes along and wrecks it all. How am I surviving? By sheer gut. No. I'm surviving the same way as everyone else is up here. We do get a little bit higher wage living in Alaska, but we also have higher cost of living in terms of products and whatnot that we have to import. So it all kind of balances out. But that's what it's like. That's how we're surviving. Now, it's going to take me a lot longer to finally reach middle class, if ever. Probably won't happen at this rate. But I do know many people that they are living in pretty nice places. And they had success in like the oil business or whatnot. I am not in the oil business, nor am I in industry. And so thus, it makes it a little bit harder to reach that threshold to actually start having a really nice living that some people have up here. A little apartment is fine for the here and the now, but it's not a good place to try and grow in. And so you just kind of gotta take it in stages. An essential oil heater with a mix to help your breathing or even congestion. Maybe not with the essential, maybe not with the sensitive stuff, but to help while you sleep. Now that's not a half bad idea. I do have a room that I would be able to close off. So my bedroom and everything else in the apartment is separated by a door that I could very easily close, and that way, make sure that the humidity doesn't spread throughout the entire house and cause, paper to warp. But that would actually not be a half bad idea for, especially when I get into the winter months. Humidity is a big problem. I do have a humidifier, it's a cheap humidifier, but I do have a cheap humidifier at work, and I use it, when it's super dry, and it does work out well for there, but I have to recharge that thing all the time because you're putting so much water into the air because it is so dry. And also, besides the fact that I also just drink water like a horse. By the way, we will not be going on for much longer for tonight. We're going to get this hand done, and then we will be calling it. We'll be back tomorrow. I want to try to stream as many days of the week as I can at this point, because there's not much else to do right now, and other than just stay on top of doing streams. So hopefully I get some good progress done on this and on the other projects. I have a lot of time dedicated right now to trying to get that stuff up and to high speed again. It's taking me a little while longer than I was expecting, but we are still happening in the background. Things are still happening in the background. Why am I saying that? It's because I am tongue-tied. If you're worried about the humidity, the oil can, the oil only can be a different solution. I like that they make humidifiers that are warm or cool mist, or that you can add oils. You know, I did have a, it wasn't a humidifier. It was one of those breather things for when you have like really severe nasal congestion or whatnot, and you're supposed to breathe in the mist. I got it from the store when I was really, really sick a couple of years ago. And by the way, I do have a lot of nasal illnesses that I've had in the past, and that is thanks to having a very problematic nose and nasal cavity. You always have to suffer with something in this life. For me, that is one of my biggest frustrations. But anyway, I got this thing that was supposed to help me breathe better. And it was going to give me mist. It had like medication that was going to be mixed in with it. I put it to my mouth and took a breath, and I basically threw this thing across the room and started like coughing. And it was because the mist was so scalding hot that it basically burned my mouth. And I was like, because I was sick, I didn't recognize the temperature difference initially until I had already breathed some of it. I was like, oh my goodness, why would they make it so hot? I looked at the setting and it was on the lowest setting. I'm like, who in tarnation would have this on anything else but lowest? So I took it back and returned it immediately. That was a painful experience. Butter maybe can help. I am unfamiliar with that. Most intriguing. That's basically what the humidifier with oils can do, but it spreads through the room. Ah, yes. I'm going to have to give that a try this winter. Hey, greetings there, Jersey. How you doing? How goes your projects? Cool mist is good for warm weather, or just so that you don't turn the room into a sauna with the warm mist. AKG. Take a note of that, look into that. Huh. Most intriguing. All right, we're ready to start turning this hand into an actual shape that we can work with. So, this hand topology is awful, of course. But you'll see why hopefully you'll see why I was taking this approach. All right, what's the tool for this? Is it... oh, I don't think I have it enabled yet. Preferences. Loop tools. Install. Relax. Great. Finish the base model. Now making clothes. 0 triangles and 6 poles also. Nicely done. What does the relax do? I only use flatten and circle. So relax does something very relaxing. Look at this line right here. So notice how it kind of zigzags a little bit. If I press relax, it kind of smooths it all out. And if I press it again, it makes it almost as if you have pressed the smooth modifier. It's that sort of thing. But you don't want to do it all the time. You do want to use it sparingly. So one of the things I'm going to be using it for is just along the top. So let me actually just select all the pieces along the top, and let me just press the relax. Yep, that's too much. You have to do it in kind of waves here. Relax is a Maya thing. Ah, yes, the old Maya. I do miss Maya a little bit, every now and again. Every program has its pros and cons, and some of the features in Maya makes me think that maybe I could have been further along in my career if I only had gotten the chance to work with Maya. But you learn to grow with what you have, and I only had access to Maya, to Blender, because Maya was too expensive. All right, so that's a little bit better. Now let us turn this to the correct sort of thing. I just go over with the relax slide sculpt thing. Yes, indeed, I have done that as well. This helps a little bit more for when you have to have like really clean topology, that sort of thing. I find that this tool tends to help out a little bit better for that. Do you maybe know how to fill a circle with a grid? I swear I saw an option like that somewhere. There is an option. There is a tool to do that. I will not say that it's necessarily a good tool. I have encountered problems with that tool in the past, and so I don't use it myself. In fact, I've forgotten where it is because I had so many problems with it. I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do it all by hand. It's actually relatively easy to do. You just have to use a little bit of math with it, just like mental math, just to avoid some problems. But it's not horrible. And technically there's a better option, you could say. So let's say we want to make a circle and fill it with a grid. So first off, we have to understand why we want to turn it into a grid. So right here, I have my circle. If I want to make it into a grid, it's most likely because I want to have good topology. Well, an easy way to get good topology with a circle, start off by insetting it or extruding it inward. And that will help to solve a lot of your problems. You can be able to have your circle in there, and then you can be able to go in and actually like connect some of the parts. And you don't have to do it for everything. You just have to do it, until you're happy with it. Now, if you want a true set of quads, then that does become a little bit more of a challenge. But it's not that hard. Once you get the system set up, it's not many clicks to actually do. Now, if you do use the tool, that can work, but just be forewarned that there are a couple of little quirks to where it almost makes it easier to do like this. Now, something else you can do, and now this is a system that I actually do kind of, I have a couple of problems with as well. So there's no guarantee that this is going to work. So here's my grid. Let's turn this into a sphere. Now, let us look at this options here. Nope, that's not it. What is it? To circle. Nope, it's not that. Oh, that's it. So let's grab this box, and then we're going to turn this to a sphere. So press the button. There we go. And by doing this, we've basically done the same sort of thing. We can do this one like partial way, increase the size a little bit. And there we have a perfect circle to a square sort of grid thing. But anyway, that's my fast way of doing that. What's the shortcut for that? Control-Shift-S. Or basically it is to sphere, transform to sphere. And you can only do that with loops, because if you try and do it with the whole cube, it's going to try and turn it into a sphere, not a circle. Yeah, grab the external parts of it, and you should have no problems doing that. Again, they do have a tool for it, but I don't remember if the good one is free or not, because there is one that doesn't work. Maya makes strong, detailed, proper layer by layer, good for large file handling. I think it's just good for proper high quality stuff. And there's a reason why Maya still is on top. Now, for how much longer is a little debatable. The number of tools in Blender that are being developed is making so much ground that it is actually plausible that it will replace Maya one day. Now, that's what my roommate initially told me, and I scoffed at him at that. I was like, that will never happen. What I didn't realize was the dedication of the artist community because of the cost of Maya. And that is the thing that's making the real change and the real headway. So I do think that Maya will still be on top for a good long while because a lot of studios are backing it. A lot of companies are backing it. But in terms of catching up, Blender's going to catch up pretty fast. But it's going to probably specialize. It's probably not going to be used on like huge projects. But it's probably going to be more prepared for the artist community rather than industry. And so thus Hollywood's not going to really going to want to touch it. Developers and engineers, they're not going to really want to touch it, but it's going to become the popular tool of everyone else. But you can bet, if I had access to Maya, there are so many things I would have done early on. Man, I wish I had access to it. Just way too expensive. I do miss its hair system. The hair system in Maya was great. I also miss a lot of the rig systems. The rig systems were also better than Blender for the most part. Not as much as it used to be, but still pretty good. I heard that the biggest problem with Blender is that it is not doesn't have the capability, but wait a minute. Capability, but compatibility with existing professional tools. You're partially correct. That used to be the thing that people complained about the most, was that it wasn't compatible. There is one major problem with Blender, and that is reliability. Maya, for large projects, is still more reliable. There's a lot of bugs with Blender. Remember that fish animation, what this hand is going to be used for? That thing got put on the shelf for 2 years because of a Blender bug. Not 2 years, sorry, 3 years. 3 years that project sat on the shelf, unable to be finished because of that problem. And I had to wait for them to actually put out the fix. Now, if I could code it, that still would not have fixed the problem, because the problem was in the root issue of how Blender is made. And so I would have to basically branch off of Blender and have to be coding it from that point on. That's not the only project that is on the shelf. There's another one about a mirror and a TV. I know, really sophisticated characters. But it was my first, it was going to be my first animation. And I ended up having to shelve it. Why? Because the Blender system was so finicky. And then when they got the update to finally fix it, all the past work that was done nullified in a moment. So not only was the bug preventing me from making headway, the fix killed the project. You can't have a studio operating like that. And so until Blender fixes most of its bugs, it's not going to be on top. It's not going to be replacing Maya. But one day, if they can get all those things fixed, you never know. There's a lot of backing for Blender. It's not just that it has money. It has all the professionals that got pushed away from other software that have basically sworn a vendetta to take down other software. That's the big thing. So it's very curious to see. Quite some interesting times for the 3D community. Nowadays, I open Instagram and a lot of beginners of Maya and Blender teach stuff. I think it is a mistake, especially after college. There's no jobs in this, and it will take them years. Yeah. Indeed. Both the software take a long time to, get up to speed. When I was in college and learning Maya, I didn't really get to use that. You had to start from ground zero with a new tool. What I'm saying is that it would be so sad that a lot of people jump into 3D and then saturate the market, and that will chew them out. Then you have AI on top of that. I know a lot of artists who have lost hope. If I had money and the ability to make sure that there was a way for people to keep the industry alive, I would. I'm very passionate about the industry. But there's a problem. The people who have money don't usually have that passion. The people who have the passion don't have the money. And so you end up with this weird sort of thing. You have people that are passionate, and so they try and do things like this. Stupid short projects that go nowhere. Yeah, it's not really going to change the industry right now. It's on its last legs. It really is. I hate to say that. I really, really hate to say that. That's why art should be a hobby only. Helps with the burnout too. Yes, there are a couple of things that you can't really do as a hobby. And that's the big stuff. There's some things I would love to do. I'll never be able to do them at this rate because the amount of detail it would take to finish is more than one person can do. And I've worked with teams before. When it's volunteer stuff, they go nowhere. I just realized I made those go up when I shouldn't have. Oh, golly. Those are supposed to go down. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Let's see, do history. Wow. Forgetful. That's humiliating. That's in between the fingers. Well, maybe that would actually work. Actually, that might actually work. I mean, not exactly, but... Ooh. I need to have a sound effect for Bob Ross saying "happy little accidents." I'm fortunate enough that I'm able to work just part-time, only to stay afloat. So the rest of the time, I'll be arty. Yeah. Believe me, I wish I could do that. Life has become too expensive, though. Earlier was raised the question about how I, survive up here in Alaska by scraping pennies. Not taking a lot of time off. There's a reason why I do this in the middle of the night. Because I can't afford to do it any other time. But it is something where I am looking at the industry and realizing that the chance of it really stabilizing isn't really possible at this point. It's unfortunate. A lot of people are going to be very disheartened over the coming years. I do believe that. Okay, so now we're going to connect the fingers. And as such, we're going to save an iteration of this because this is going to be a pretty big change. And we're also going to duplicate these and put this into hide. That is for in case something goes wrong. Go back and fix it. So let's grab these fingers grab this hand. Merge that. How do I want this to connect? Jess says, ooh, we've got an Indian restaurant in town, and I was looking at the menu. Had to search names to get some idea of what the stuff was. Some of it is an interesting contrast. Indian food is very unique. I can't say necessarily that it's one of my preferred flavors or whatnot. It's a little too wild for my taste. But I do know a lot of people that love Indian food. There's a friend of mine that I had at college who was from Bangladesh. He wasn't like someone who was Bangladeshian or however you say it. He was a missionary kid, and he grew up in Bangladesh. And he had a love of the food. It was he loved Indian food. And he tried getting me to like it too. And I had it a couple times. I was like, ugh. The flavors were, I have a very weak stomach for things that are too out there. And Indian food is pretty out there for me. Not necessarily saying that it's bad or anything, but, you know, for my very weak constitution when it comes to my stomach, it is. I'm a wimp when it comes to spice and such, so a lot of the main dishes probably won't work, though the appetizer and dessert stuff does look interesting. Indeed. I do like spice, although there's something about Indian spice that just is weird. I very much like Japanese and Mongolian spices. Chinese is like hit or a miss for me, but I love Japanese spices. And nice when we merge these together. Center. Then cut through there. Yeah, lovely. Perfect. No, it's not. What am I doing? Get rid of that. It's one of those weird connections, though. I don't like how that connection is going. I'll come back to that later on. Indian food in restaurants is just food made for British during the colonial times. Indians don't eat those on for daily life. Gingerbread. Yes, gingerbread is very nice. I definitely enjoy it. I grew up in Germany, so quite familiar with that. I do know that that's definitely the case. Kind of like how if you go to just about anywhere, the food that you're going to get on the daily basis, it's not what most people are going to have. An example of that is kind of like American food. There's a lot of Americans who never have the traditional American food. But yet, everyone thinks that we do. Now, there are a lot of people that do. But yeah, if you're trying to take a poll of what do people eat, most people eat things that I personally would never want to eat. Things like casseroles. And the likes. But there is America is such a melting pot of different cultures that our food tastes are all over the place. So you can't really say there's an American cuisine anymore. But if you go over to Japan, they think that there is such a thing as an American cuisine. And I've had it. It does not taste American. When your hot dog crunches like a piece of celery, ugh, what do they do to it? Oh, and yes, it did crunch like celery. Okay, not exactly like, but pretty darn close. It was so utterly disgusting. And they're like, "Oh, this is American food." No, it's not. Oh, it was so awful. But it made me start wondering, I wonder what things we have from other parts of the world that are kind of treated in a similar way. We think, oh, this is Indian food. Oh, this is, Russian food or whatnot. And we have no idea what the difference is. I do know that when it comes to some cultures, we tend to tone it back because we don't have the same stomachs. For example, I had stuff from some folks were saying, hey, let's go have this food from that is based out of Africa. And then I found out that they don't actually eat that over there. And that it's actually far worse. And we're like, yep, there's a reason why they didn't want us to know what the actual food was. But then it left me wondering, what was it that we ate? Because it wasn't that. Was it just like inspired? It was unique. By the way, that was when I was at Disney. And Disney is not necessarily known for, giving you authentic stuff. They give you what's palatable. And, well, when your main course for some countries is sugarcane rat, you can't really sell that here in the U.S. Don't have enough faces between the fingers? Probably. I'll probably end up separating those out. It's getting late though, so I'm not going to be able to do this for much longer. That'll be tomorrow's problem. I haven't modeled like this in a long, long time. I'm very rusty. Just like the fingers from last week. Gonna get better at this slowly but surely. American cuisine is stuff that we have that baffles others until they come and try it. Biscuits and gravy and such, or weird habits we have, like scooping up milkshakes on French fries. That is indeed true. Although, some of it, though, it's like, it's not even American, not even remotely. Kind of like that hot dog in Japan. One of the worst American meals I've ever had was in Japan. A place that's known for like high quality food, and they couldn't get a hot dog right. I thought that they would like, do it better because, it's Japan. And nope. Man, I'm so out of practice. You don't realize how much you, how little time you've had over the past years to really work at your craft until you try and do something that you used to do. And you're like, darn, I remember there's a problem here. And then you're trying to figure out what it was that you used to do that used to come so easily. But yeah, we're gonna have to call it here. I need to get some rest because I'm trying to get up earlier and, be able to actually have time to work on projects. I also have to get a render up and running before I call it quits for the evening. So I have to get that render set up. So because Erudai needs it. Chicken Parmesan is an adaptation to life in America instead of Italy by the immigrants of New York. Speaking of your Chef Boyardee. Exactly. My fingers look so messy as for topology, especially the feet. Hey, but you did a lot of good progress on that. So you're always going to have things that you're like, oh, darn, it didn't turn out so well. This is the most accurate. This is the highest quality hand that I've done like ever. And I'm still working at it. The goal is to get it a little bit more refined before I actually start rigging it. But this will be the highest quality arm rig that I've ever done. And I've done several of these at this point. You're not going to get it the first time. Probably going to get it like the fourth or fifth time. Topology is pure chaos. Yes, indeed. I know when you are working with it and you realize just how, difficult it is going to be to try and fix it. And you look at the topology and you just want to scream, and if it's like as if a terrible tragedy has befallen you. What? Wow, what poor timing on that one. I gotta change the delay on that. I was building up to something. I wanted to just break in it. Didn't want to do it. Oh well. Every tip looks so different also. That's why I ended up duplicating mine and then reshaping it a little bit afterwards. And so that method can help out even with the thumb. It's technically the same one. It's just been reshaped a little bit. Yeah, hopefully you do find some good success with that. But we are going to call it there, folks. We don't, let me see here. Yeah, we don't have enough to do a raid, but we will, wait a minute. There's something weird. Huh, the numbers are all off. That's weird. So let us actually give that a shot then. Let's see if anybody's live first before we do that. There is. Okay, we are going to go raid. All right. So we're going to call it there, folks. Have a pleasant evening and morning, everybody. Just a reminder, be civil to one another and share that civility with someone today as you go about your Tuesday. We will see you next time, whenever that is. On the Twitch side, we're going to do a raid. You don't have to necessarily stay, but I will be staying as after the raid takes place, just because. All right, starting the raid over there, and for the rest of you, we will be just doing normal transition there. And as we head on out, if you would be so kind to consider liking or disliking the stream, I would appreciate that. Until next time, folks, have a very pleasant evening. Heading on over there in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.